Okay, now after that complicated database, let's do something a little simpler, namely the monthly review. And as the name suggests, this is the review that we have to start and end our months with clarity and intent. It is related to the following elements: the daily review, by having all the rating scores during our daily review in a nice little chart during our monthly review. Then it's also connected to the quarterly review, where we take the reflections that we do every month and sort of look back on them at the end of the quarter. Similarly, we do that with the yearly review. Then we also have the action tracker linked here so that we can see all of the actions that we've been doing in the past month, or rather all of the hours of work we've been doing. And it's connected to the habit tracker in the sense that we use this moment to sort of see which habits we want to build, which habits we maybe have integrated, or which habits we have terminated. And lastly, we will have a quick check-in with the SMART goals and the reflection questions that we have inside of our different active projects. So those are the connections. And actually, there's also the knowledge database. I should have remembered that, because we are also going to give that rating score that we talked about earlier, where we can bring it actually from 1 to 2 diamonds to the highest rating of 3 diamonds. And of course, we have our reflection questions that we just explored in this previous section. Okay, so in this flowchart over here, you can see the monthly review is on the same level with the goals and the habits. And that actually means that during our monthly review, we check in with all of our SMART goals. And additionally, we also take this moment, like I just said, to potentially set any new habits or terminate or ingrain any of the habits that we have been trying to build. The key goal of the monthly review is to start and end our months with clarity and intent. So this is very similar to the weekly review. The main difference here, though, is that during the monthly review, we have a medium level reflection and reviewing. And what we mean by that is that as we have these review cycles over here, the longer the review cycle, or sort of the bigger the review cycle, the deeper that we go. So during a daily review, for example, we have some reflections, we have some process reviewing, but they're pretty shallow and they're pretty short term. Whereas in the weekly review, the reflections are a little deeper and we take a bit more time to reflect. And this pattern sort of continues as we go bigger into these review cycles, right? So in the monthly review, we have even deeper questions. And then quarterly and yearly review, we really dig deep. So not only do these reviews feed into each other, but we also go a bit deeper into the substance for each of these different reviews. Now, here is a little overview to show you the power of this. We could conceptualize our understanding as a tree, and this could be both understanding on a knowledge level, but it can also be understanding on a wisdom level. And as we are growing our understanding, we sort of have our foundational layer all the way at the bottom. So this is sort of our foundational understanding of everything. These are the first principles that we are living our lives by. Now, from this tree start stemming these branches. And for example, this might be a piece of insight into okay, I want to be a compassionate person, right? That is the first branch. Being compassionate is a good thing to have. Then stemming from that compassion, there might be some more understanding that is, when I say kind words to people, that is a way for me to show compassion. So being kind is a way for me to show compassion. Then from that might stem an even smaller branch that says, okay, the way to say kind words to people is by giving them compliments on what they're wearing, or by telling them that their face looks really good. So we sort of layer these things onto each other. But as we are reflecting, we might actually come to the conclusion that a certain branch that we thought was true is actually not true, or it is slightly different. So with this example, we might actually come to the realization that yes, being compassionate is something that is important to me, but saying kind words to people maybe isn't the best way to be compassionate, or maybe that's not a way that resonates with me. Maybe a way for me to be compassionate is to do things that I know are good for other people by facilitating them in a way, or maybe by being tough to them, but from a loving place. So this might be a new insight that I've gotten that sort of cuts off this tree and that invalidates all of the branches that are stemming out of this deeper branch. And sometimes it invalidates it completely, right? This is completely invalidated. Sometimes it might also mean we have to sort of reconfigure this. And this goes both for reflection as well as for knowledge. So for example, with knowledge, we could have a branch where it's like, okay, I have understanding of design, and a sub-branch of design might be visual design. And a sub-branch of visual design might be color theory, and then a little leaflet on that color theory might be that the color red encourages people to purchase things. But then maybe later at some point I learned that actually the color theory that I have been taught is false. There's no scientific proof for this. I just thought this was true. And that sort of invalidates this whole branch of knowledge that I have built on top of that. Now, the deeper the cut in the tree, both the more painful it is, as well as the more knowledge or more wisdom we have to recontextualize or rediscover. Because if I cut off this very deep branch, all this stuff that I thought to be true is actually not true. And this is also a reason why lots of people feel like reflection is a little bit confronting or might not really want to take the time for it, because it can be very painful. It can be very painful to invalidate something that you thought was true. And especially when there are these deeper things. And that is sort of what is happening at these longer term review cycles, right? Like a monthly or even yearly. We get into that deep matter. And this is where a lot of deep generation happens, right? Very deep insight leads to deep generation and lots of value being created. But very often that also means confronting something that is very uncomfortable in the moment. So yeah, the deeper we get, the more value, but we also have to be sort of understanding that sometimes that means letting go of things. Okay, that being said, let's get into the notion building. So database collection zone is really starting to come together. Nice seeing this. I'm starting to get some recognition here. And actually, we are going to create another page. And this one's going to be the monthly review, right? And we're going to turn that into a table because, as always, database first design. And as you might also notice, I try to have icons that also have a little bit of overlap between the overarching zone. So for example, all of these have like stars and planets, and they're all yellow. So we can recognize, okay, those are all the review databases. And then here we try to be trees, seedlings, and the fire to burn the whole place down. I don't know why the fire icon. So it's not as strict as with, for example, the colors and the circles, which is a way of using the emojis to denote it a little bit better. Okay, we're going to have the master table. And I'm actually going to add these sparkles right over here. And this database is actually going to be very simple because we only have two properties. The first one is going to be the name of the month. And the second one is going to be the date span. And we've also done this before. And yeah, this element is a little bit simpler because we already built the weekly review and the monthly review has a lot of overlap with the weekly review. So let's go and create this template. And I'm going to say, this is the monthly review template. And we can give this one an icon, but we don't have to because I made custom, a cover. We can give this a cover, but I made custom covers for all the months. So you can also just add those manually and I'll show those to you later. Actually, you can see them over here. So for example, we could have the January cover and we could add that when it is the January month. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to customize this layout, move to panel. Less is more. You might have noticed this by now. I always try to reduce the clutter on the page as much as possible. Less is more. We focus on the functionality. We can add little tidbits for aesthetics. You can also add more for aesthetics, but I always try to take away as much as possible. So what are we actually going to add over here? We're going to say, make this date span, and that's it. Boom. Remove this comment section. Beautiful. Very simple header. Then the first chapter is going to be reflection and insight. Over here, very similar to the weekly review, the first thing we're going to do is have a linked view of the reflections database. But before we do that, we first will need to link this relation, because like I mentioned in the last chapter, these are not yet related. So now that we've actually created this database, we can start linking this to the proper database. So I'm just going to say relationship to monthly review. Do we need a two-way? We don't. I'm going to add that relationship. I'm going to go back into the template. And now we can go into the reflections database, and we're going to say upcoming month. So very similar to what we do with the weekly review, we have a view over here with reflection questions that we fill in for the upcoming month. So at the end of the monthly review, we create the review for the next month, and we just fill in these two questions. And then also similarly, we are going to have a view in which we have all of the reflections that we made during our previous weeks. Now, currently there's only one reflection in here, but as you're using the system and as you're making your reflections, we will have toggles for all of the questions in our weekly reviews, and you will see all of the reflections that you've made. And on the left here, you can see on which date you made them. So you can sort of just scroll through them, and I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. It's basically the same structure as that we have here for the previous days, but then we're going to have it with all of the previous week's reflections. So that's what we're going to have over here. Just a little real-time check-in with all of the reflections we made during the previous weeks. Then the next thing that we're going to do is once again very similar to what we did with the weekly review, but we're going to do it on a monthly scale. So we're going to look at all of the day ratings that we made, and we're going to look at the hours that we worked, both per day and also per project. So to do that, we'll need to go into the databases and actually create a bunch of new views, but it's going to be relatively easy because what we can simply do is get this one over here. We can simply duplicate this because we want to have the exact same view, except that we want to set this filter and say, show me all of the entries that are made on or after 1 month ago, right? So now it's going to show me all of the ratings I made in the past month. Now, we would have to add a few more to show what that looks like. That goes from 15, so let's just say December 14. We can say December 13. We can say December 12th, 11, 10. We're just adding some more data in here. And then you can see that actually we have more ratings. And if we filled in all of our daily reviews, this will be 30 little bars, just sort of showing you the ratings as we are going through the month. Now, next we're going to go into the action tracker, and also simply going to duplicate this view. And these are the hours worked, and we're going to call this hours worked per past month. And then once again, we're going to change this filter, and we're going to say, show me all of the actions that I did in the last month. So on or after 1 month ago. But then we're also going to change this date property and set it to week. So we're going to see per week how many hours we have done. And then the last one that we're going to do, and actually I have to add the emoji here for beautiful, is we're going to do the same over here with the hours worked per project. And once again, we're going to just change that. By saying filter, show me everything I've done in the past month. And we can leave the rest just as it is. So now it's just going to show us all of the hours that we did per project for the whole previous month. Then we're going to go back into this template, and I'm going to say empty view. And first I want to have daily review, daily ratings of the past month. Hide that title. Daily ratings. And then from the action tracker, I want to grab, boom, that's one. And then that. See, sometimes Notion has a few little glitches like this one. I guess we just got to work with what we got. I'm just going to add these. Boom. Beautiful. Okay. Add that graph. And then the last thing that we're going to do, so this is all just sort of reviewing and checking back in with things that we've already done. And then the last thing we're going to add is the actual reflection questions that we've made for the monthly review. Now, something to keep in mind here is that these are a lot of questions. And once again, I want to emphasize the designing for modularity principle. Take what is useful and discard the rest. The fact that there is 13 different questions in here doesn't mean you have to answer all of these questions. You can simply go into the reflections database, remove the ones that you don't want. You don't even have to completely remove them. You can just take them away from the filter. You can also just not fill them in when you're doing your monthly review. So this is just a way to encourage you, to help you think about certain questions, but you don't have to fill in everything, right? So this is just a way to prompt yourself. And if you're feeling like it, you can do all of them. And if you're not feeling like it, you can also just do one or two. So yeah, once again, design for modularity, and we don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to shorten these a little bit so that actually everything shows. In one nice, neat tab. Okay, that's the reflections and insight part of the monthly review. Then the next part is the actual reviewing. So once again, the actual reviewing is about the process. It's about the mechanistical parts of our entire system. The first thing that we are going to do is check in with all of our SMART goals. And to do this, we need to create a special view in the reflections database. So I'm going to go into the reflections database, and I'm actually just going to randomly duplicate one of these because it's part of the project tracker. And we're going to say active SMART goals. So the question that I want to see is, what is the SMART goal that you are currently trying to work on? But I only want to see the SMART goal from the active projects. So we will need to create a new property inside this database that can help us measure whether a project is active. And the way to do that is by creating a rollup. So we've already connected the reflections database to the project tracker. So over here, I'm actually going to go to this property. This is a rollup. And then from that project tracker, I'm going to grab the status. And what I want to show is the original. Now, if I answer a question inside this project tracker, related to the project tracker rather, it's going to give me the project status right over here. So let's say, for example, I just make this new reflection, and it's related to what is my main SMART goal for this project. And over here it is related to this Build the Notion of Life project. Over here we can see that the project status is active. And that is what we want, because now what we can then do in this view that we just created, which I did not, there we go, did not rename. We can remove this group, which is what we're going to do, if I can find the button. Remove grouping. And actually I'm going to say filter, remove, reflection questions contain SMART goal. What is the main SMART goal? And then project status is active. Boom. And now it's only going to show me the reflections for all of the SMART goals that we have for our active projects. And then over here, I can go into properties. I can show which project it is related to. And I will also add the formatted date in the front right over there. I could even add this. And just like this, we can now see all our active SMART goals for our projects. So this is one we want to add to our monthly review template. Reflections, we go in there. Or once again, we don't. reflections. Yes. Flop, flop, and then active smart goals. Okay, so this is the first one that we check in. This is the one we really want to get down. So if we take any review for the project questions, we want to focus on the SMART goals. So what is a SMART goal? Let's spend a little more time on this. SMART goals are intermediary goals that sort of bring our abstract and long-term vision goals into a more concrete description. So let's say, for example, a vision goal might be, in 10 years, I want to have a career from which I can sustain myself and can sustain children. That is very abstract, and vision goals tend to be more abstract. A SMART goal might then be, within the coming year, I want to have a job that earns me $50K a year. That is already much more specific. And then from that SMART goal, we create a project, which is sort of the engine to work towards that SMART goal, and we can reverse engineer into milestones and into actions. But as we are pursuing a SMART goal, it might be that the goal changes as we are working on it. So maybe 6 months in, I realize that $50K goal was not realistic. Or maybe that I've already gone past that. Or maybe that actually I don't want to have a job, but I want to start a business instead. So our SMART goals can change. And during the monthly review, we would just check in with those goals to see if they are still relevant, to see if we are still on track to reach them. And it is perfectly fine to change your goals. Like, a goal is a way of orienting ourselves in the world. A goal is not a thing to be reached in and of itself. Like, reaching a goal just for the sake of the goal is a great way to become miserable, because you can become very obsessed and you lose joy in the process and you become centered around the outcome. Now, does that mean you should quit whenever it gets hard? Definitely not. That is why we check in every month, right? On a day-to-day basis, we go through the shit. If we're not feeling it, we just keep going because we set this direction for ourselves. But then when we're in a more reflective state of mind, once a month, we check in with our SMART goals. And similarly, once a quarter, we check in with our vision goals, right? So we take some time, sit back and reflect. Is this still the SMART goal I want to pursue? And that's why we have this view over here. All of our SMART goals neatly laid out, and we can just edit our SMART goals over here. Now, what I usually do is that when I have a SMART goal over here, so let's say, for example, this SMART goal is indeed before the end of the year, I want to have a job with which I can earn $50K a year. Okay, let's say, for example, that is a SMART goal. If I change this SMART goal as I'm working on it, I will very often just make an edit and just write the new SMART goal over here. I'm actually going to change it before the end of the year. I want to make $50K with freelance work, right? Like that, I will edit the SMART goal, and if it is a small edit, we can maintain the project. If it is a very big edit, then maybe it makes more sense to just sunset the project, delete it, and then make a new one. Because it will be a different thing that we're trying to pursue. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is potentially checking in with our broader project reflections, right? Because for every project, we make more reflections. Now, you don't have to spend a lot of time on this. This is an optional one. But if you feel like you just want to explore some of those reflections, for example, see if it's still challenging enough or see if something changed in the complexity, then this is also a moment to sort of go into your projects and look at the different reflection questions. So we're just going to create a few for that over here. I'm just going to go duplicate this one. I'm going to add some sparkles. I'm actually going to call this project reflections. The filter is already right because we have the status on active. And we're going to change the layout to list. And we're going to have these properties. We're actually going to add the progress one. And we're going to add the days past date. And just like this, we have all our projects ready to go. And then actually we can just also add the next view that we will also use, which is going to be the next up project view. And that one's pretty much going to be the same as the active project view. The only difference we're making here is that we're changing this one to next up. Boom. That's actually not true. We're going to turn this into a list. Let me actually give some... Let me actually add some entries over here so that we actually have some projects over here. And we're going to add the property of next up. I almost forgot about this. And then the date span on the right. Because if you remember, earlier when we built the project tracker, we added this extra property, which shows us when we have the project scheduled. So it looks at the date span, and then it tells us how many days do we currently have before we enter this first part of the date span. And this one over here has not been scheduled yet, right? Because it doesn't have a date span. But if I were to put this in and say, okay, this project is actually planned for January, I can see it will start in 6 days. So as we are doing our monthly review, we can quickly check in which projects are upcoming. And if they're almost starting, then we can either start them or we can reschedule them if they no longer make sense. And the way that we plan projects ahead is by looking at our vision goals. And we're going to explore that in one of the next chapters. But there you'll sort of see that we can use projects and already plan them ahead to plan towards vision goals. But more on that later. Okay, we're also going to get the other project checker view that we just created called Project Reflections. Drag that one over here. Okay, so that is the goal/project level of the review that we do here. Hey there. Just a brief intermission to let you know that you can get free access to the masterclass worksheet by dropping your email address in the link down below. And inside of this worksheet, you will find a step-by-step outline to track your progress as you're going throughout this masterclass. You will also find the complete slide deck that we are using in this video. You will find all of the formulas ready to copy and paste, meaning you don't have to write them out all yourself, but you can just plug them into your system and start using them straight away. And this one is a really good one. You will find the 2 original reflection databases, and this will literally save you hours of setup time. You can just plug them into your system and start using them straight away. And then just as a tiny little cherry on top, you will also get all of the database and template covers that we are using in this masterclass. So if you want to grab all this stuff for free right now, then drop your email address down below and I'll send it to you straight away. Now, the last thing that we do for this action review is the habit management. So now we're going to look at all of our habits and see if anything needs to change. Are there any new habits that we're trying to build? Are there any of the existing habits that have now become integrated because we've been doing them for a month or 2 months? Or are there any habits that need to be terminated that we were trying to build, but we've actually come to the realization, I'm no longer interested in that habit right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our habit tracker database, and I'm actually going to create a new view. I'm just going to duplicate this one, and then I'm going to call this habit management, and I'm going to hide the status because we are going to group it by status, so we no longer need that property. And just like that, usually we don't have habits without a status, so I'll just delete those. And just like that, we have building, integrated, and terminated. And now what we can do is once we've added this view to this review section, we can simply drag and drop any habit. So if we're like, okay, meditation, I have a 75% hit rate. I don't feel that's really ingrained yet. But reading a book, I have a 100% hit rate. And let's say I got like 20 entries, for example. I could be like, okay, this feels like it's integrated now. And then I can just drag it right over here. And maybe hitting the gym, and I'm like, okay, this one we're just going to terminate. And then over here, when I want to build a new habit, I can simply add a page. Taking cold showers. Gonna do that 5 times per week. At 8 o'clock in the evening. It's gonna take 5 minutes at home in the shower. And just like that, we can easily manage our habits during our monthly review. Okay, so I'm going to collapse that one back in. And then the next part is going to be the knowledge review. And this one is once again very similar to what we were doing for the... Actually, I forgot to add some text here. This one should be action review, knowledge review. Very similar to what we're doing during the weekly review, but we're taking everything a level higher. So we're going to go into our knowledge database. We are going to take this knowledge rating, duplicate it, but now instead of showing 1 to 3 stars and then 1 and 2 diamonds, I just want to see all the diamond options. So we're just going to hide these, and we're going to drag that one to 3 diamonds. So, and also we're going to say last edited is on or after a month ago. So all of the knowledge pieces that we touched in the last month that have been either set to 1 or 2 diamonds, we now have the opportunity to upgrade those. So we can either take them from 1 to 2 diamonds, or from 2 to 3, or from 1 to 3, right? So we can have a little extra update. And if we do that, what you will see over here, just gonna go knowledge database, knowledge rating, is that once again, the amount of days that we have left to work on this knowledge piece increases. So let's say, for example, these reflections of Nietzsche, currently I have 74 days left to work on them. If I were to drag them to this 3 diamond place, now I have 89 days to work on them. So once again, we increase that score and we increase the amount of time we have to work on this specific knowledge piece. And these knowledge pieces are also going to be the ones we'll see during our yearly review. And we're going to have a small list of all of the most important knowledge that we have generated. So through this flow, through this process, over time, we are filtering, and we leave only those gems, only the information that is valuable to us, right? It's very contextual, the information that's valuable to us. So we have the knowledge rating right here during our monthly review. And then the other thing that we do related to the knowledge database is, instead of looking at all the open knowledge, we're actually going to look at all the completed knowledge. And we're going to say days left is 0. So am I speaking the truth there? Yes. So we're going to say days left is 0. And last edited is on or after 1 month ago. So now it's going to show me all of the knowledge pieces that I have completed in the last month. And we're going to add one little property here that I sneaked in earlier when we were creating this knowledge database, which is called exempt. Because I've created a button that allows us to exempt a knowledge piece from this flow. Now, I want to be very clear. We want to use this super sparingly. So don't just go exempt on everything. But if there is a knowledge piece that's either all the way maxed out, or for some reason you still want to keep in your flow or in your dashboards, there's a button here. And when you press that, the days left becomes 4.2 forever. That's just a little inside joke. But pretty much you will just always be able to see it. And the moment you unexempt it, it goes back to the actual days. So we'll give ourselves that option during the monthly review, because then what we can do, we don't necessarily need that one over there. We can add this, and we can say completed knowledge. So At the end of the month, we have the opportunity to look at all of the knowledge items that we've completed during the last month. If none of them need anything, then it's just a good reminder, okay, that is all the stuff we're now leaving behind. And if there's something we want to make exempt, we can simply press it and it will be saved for later revisiting. Okay. Next part of the review is going to be, actually, H2 was okay. Review our finances. And we do not have a system inside Notion of Life. I initially did not think it was relevant. I'm also not quite sure if it is better than doing something outside, both for security reasons, but also just I feel like banking apps already have pretty good tracking. And yeah, maybe you could do something with budgeting. If you want to see something finance related, if you want to see dedicated finance database inside of a Notion of Life, let me know and I would be more than happy to create one. But for now, it is just a checklist that we have over here with a few things that we can do, like pay all our open bills, check if we still have outstanding requests that need to be paid, maybe check in with our cash flow, check in with investments. We can all do that at the end of every month. And that already brings us to the end of this review. Now, one thing you might notice is that as we are progressing in building this system, things become easier to build because we have the core infrastructure, and once things are set, it becomes easier and easier to keep adding things. So the beginning of the system is really hard to build, hard to understand, but as we're progressing right now, you can see we pretty much built a fully functional template in like 25 minutes, and we can just use this like for many, many years. And this is, I mean, you can make like small tweaks, but yeah, 25 minutes to build a very robust, maybe even anti-fragile template. Yeah, just goes to show what good core infrastructure can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a button, and we're going to say create new review, very similar to what we did with that weekly review. We're going to give it that sparkle. Once again, we're going to have a little confirmation, and the confirmation is going to say, don't forget to fill in the intentions that you want to set for the upcoming month. And once again, also a gentle reminder to give ourselves a little reward. It's like, let's do it. Yes, sir. Or nope. And also here, I'm going to add some formula magic, because what we want to do when we press this button is we want to create the monthly review for the upcoming month. So we're going to add a page to the monthly review database, and we're going to add that as a template, the template that we're currently building. And then for the month name property, I want it to automatically take the upcoming month date. So this formula takes the upcoming month. I'm going to put that as the name. And then the date span, I want it to take also the upcoming month. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to open this page in a full page so that we can actually fill in those reflections that we just created. And then we're going to say done. And we're going to have that button right over there. And now whenever we press that button, it's going to prompt us to not forget to fill in our intentions and to not forget to reward ourselves. And then boom, let's do it. The name is automatically filled in, date span automatically filled in, and then over here we can fill in these questions for the upcoming month. Right over here I can fill in, these are my intentions for the upcoming month. And this is what would make the upcoming month awesome. Now it seems that we actually created a wrong. One quick thing that I noticed as I was doing this, because we relinked these reflections over here, right? If you remember, we just relinked this monthly review database. What we also need to do inside each view is to relink the template. So currently we have this filter, right? And it says, only show me the reflections that contain the monthly review template. But this is not actually the template that we just built. I just figured this out because something was going wrong, because it is still linked to that old template. So when we're inside our monthly review template, what we need to do here is actually to go in here, delete this one, and set it to template. And do the same over here. We need to delete this one and set it to template. And now it has actually been set to the proper template. And so now if we create this new review, boom, let's do it. It is creating a January 2025 for us. And then I can go in here and I can make a new reflection for my intentions the upcoming month. Beautiful. And as you might see, when we create a new page, you get this little don't remove this entry. This is just from the original template. It is to not confuse people. I made this button, which is a little exclamation mark to show people like, hey, don't remove this entry. But once you know that you're not supposed to remove this, you can remove this property, because as long as you have the X page in there, it's going to be fine. So yeah, this one is just a reminder. Once you got the hang of it, you can delete it if you want to. Then we can go back to our monthly review. And of course, we end it by saying, good job, my friend. Time to reward yourself. Celebrate. And just like that, we now have our fully functional monthly review template. Let's go. Let's go.